We are applauding all of those other people on that train who stood up. Let's see what our big guns of politics think. The old team back together. Joe Hockey, Kevin Rudd. Gents, good morning. Nice to see the combination. Joe, I'll start with you, that racist rant. Finally we see people taking a stand, and this is what we need, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. And you know what, when that lady who was making the racist statements said that her grandfather fought to keep that sort of man out of the country. In fact, her grandfather fought to allow that man to come into this country, to live a free life, not to be judged on the colour of his skin, nor on his religious beliefs. And that's why her grandfather fought. So I think whenever people have these sort of rants, they need to be brought to account for the justification for their rants, and there is no justification at all.
Yep, exactly. Kevin?
Well, look, in a country like Australia, there's just no room for racism. There's a couple of reasons for that. One is we are all arrivals in this country, apart from the first Australians, wave after wave after wave. And let's just all recognise we're all immigrants, and you're new at some stage in this country. And the second thing is this. When Australians travel around the world, how do they want to be received? You want to be welcomed and embraced? When you're speaking English in a foreign country, for example, I think you would be. So, frankly, zero tolerance on this sort of racism, and good on those people for standing up in the public transport system to defend this person.
Thank you, gents. Agree with both of you. Hey, let's talk about the plans for the fast train on the East Coast. We've talked about this a few times before. Government's released a study that says a high-speed train could offer 3-hour trips between Sydney and Melbourne, about $100 billion to make, and could take decades to complete. Joe, you've called it a diversion. It seems to come out every few years, doesn't it? But do you not acknowledge we need some long-term visions for Australia?
Oh, of course we do, and we should invest in infrastructure over the long term. I don't think there's any argument about that. The only issue is this the best project for that long-term investment? When there is demand, as Kevin knows, for new ports, there's demand for public transport in the cities, there's demand for even better hospitals, there's demand for better schools. Is this a priority? And the fact that the government releases it but doesn't back it just says this is just seems to be a bit of a distraction from the issues that we need to deal with today.
Yeah, Kevin, some of those more pressing projects, Melbourne Metro, rail line to Melbourne Airport, in Brisbane, the Cross River Rail, in Sydney, a second harbour rail crossing. And why is a fast train so high up?
Well, we're assuming either or here. The first thing is the Australian government in the last 5 years has made record investments in transport infrastructure across the country. And for the first time in decades, you had an Australian government that's now investing into urban rail. In Brisbane here, the Redcliffe to Brisbane rail link. Down in Melbourne, the link that goes out to the northwest of the city there, and down the Gold Coast, a light rail link. We are doing this across the country. Our predecessors never invested in urban rail. This one, this high-speed rail link, as proposed as a possibility for the future between Brisbane and Sydney and down to Melbourne, with about 3 hours commuting time between each of the major cities, is a long-term proposal for public debate. Joe, you're on the record as saying on high-speed rail, we need to carefully examine these proposals, look at it carefully with the states, and have a fact-based analysis, your own words more or less. And frankly, that's all Anthony Albanese is doing as well. He's not saying we need to do this tomorrow, but you've got to plan for long-term infrastructure, put it out there, have a discussion with the states, rather than pretend these needs don't exist long-term, and they do.
OK. All right, guys, we'll have to leave it there. Thank you very much. Have a great weekend.
Good to see Kevin back.
Good to see you. Good to see you, Joe, too.
I left him then, too.
He can't help just stir that pot at the end. 7:23 now.